Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Circling Seattle Sports podcast. This is sort of a unique thing. I don't really know how to describe it. It's more of a follow-up. You've seen Liv here before. We've spoken before at the Black Media Matters studio at Converge. This is more of a 2021 season follow-up. This is episode 121 of the show itself. But it's not an interview series because we've already talked to Liv about her career as a whole. So we're here to kind of look at how things went this past season and perhaps sort of a look towards next year. I don't know if it's like an official thing, but if you don't know, Olivia will be back next season at UW. If that's news to you, there you go. If you already knew that, perfect. I know that was something that I think after we record the interview, I was like, hey, so are you coming back next year? What's the deal?
Yeah.
So that's interesting to note, especially because, I had a teammate get drafted to the NWSL this year. And someone I thought was going to go into the draft didn't. So, some interesting things going on there, but started every game this past season. So kudos to you for sticking it out. I know seasons are always sort of, a grind to get through as a whole. Especially, and still dealing with a pandemic, as well as setting a career high in saves on the year. I know it wasn't the easiest year, but how do you, just as a surmise, how do you look at last year and how things went?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for having me on. Always a fun time. But last year season didn't go as we had anticipated or wanted. Obviously, we started off kind of rough and we just really couldn't get our feet under us for a while. And by the time we did, we got some really good results back and we played some really, really good games and fought off some really tough teams and stayed with them. But by the time we sort of got our footing, we were playing catch up, and as far as making the tournament goes, we were not in a good position, and then we had some bumps in the road that didn't help us out. But I think that it was a huge growing year for the program and for those of us, especially that are coming back on a number of levels, because one of my co-captains actually said this at one point in a meeting we were having, and she was like, in the spring we dealt with a lot of different kinds of adversity, but we didn't ever really deal with losing, which is a great problem to have. But I think that there was an element of thinking, like we did really well in the spring and we have a lot of people returning, so it's kind of just gonna be the same old song and dance, same story again. And I think that having it not really go our way lit a fire under a lot of us that are returning, and there are a lot of returners once again, to sort of, turn things around and make a better season for those of us that are choosing to come back. Some of us, myself included, are getting up there in eligibility and age, and like college soccer is a grind. So it's not just always a given for most people that, you're just going to come back and take a fifth or sixth year or whatever it might be. But I think that the way that this past season went and seeing all of the potential that we had to really go the distance, but not being able to deliver on it, just really sets us up to get after it this off season and do a lot of things that the program's never seen and never done coming up this fall. So, I learned a lot about myself. I think we all learned a lot about ourselves as a team. And it's going to make us as a whole unit so much stronger and so much better coming into 2022.
You talk about, the beginning. I remember, you said it was Duke and North Carolina to start the year off, and no easy stretch to begin the year. You guys played several ranked opponents throughout the year, and I think we talked about it when we spoke. Playing in the Pac-12, there's a lot of talent. Obviously, look at the last game of the year, WSU. They've had a good program for as far as I can remember. But playing the ranked teams, notably tying Arizona State and USC, those great games. Obviously, I'm sure for you probably long, just because you go through the overtime period as well.
Yeah.
WSU, USC, UCLA, Stanford, ASU, Duke, North Carolina. Like you said, at some point in the season, kind of figured out, but you're playing catch up. Playing those ranked teams and really just looking at how it wasn't an easy thing to go through, right? I mean, does that tell you something about the women on this team and the group as a whole, and maybe more so about the ones that are coming back? What they'll be able to contribute now that they've uh, go to the tournament a few years ago. And it feels weird to say a few years ago because technically not really, right? A few seasons ago, right? And then to deal with that, I mean, does that, obviously you got to be a little bit resilient to look at that, look at the nice run you had, look at last year, and then say, okay, like you said, got a fire under us now, got to figure what, I mean, what does it just tell you about some of your teammates to really stick through it? Because I mean, in the games that I saw, at least it's not like they were not competitive, right? They're competitive
Right.
games. So what does it tell you about your teammates and, the women that you've got in front of you as the goalkeeper there?
I mean, the resilience is off the charts. Like, especially starting the season the way that we did. And like you're saying, we had a tough road stretch just right out the gate, and didn't get results that we wanted. It would have been really easy for people to just throw in the towel and just be, waiting it out and waiting for season to be over and kind of just to start fresh and start from scratch. And people didn't do that. Like, as you can see, we played, especially later on in the season, we played some intensely competitive and talented teams, and every single game everybody came out to fight and everybody came out to play. And it was really inspiring because, I would consider myself a very, very motivated person, but again, it can be tough sometimes to, like, keep the faith. And I think that's why soccer's a team sport, because on a day when you might not have it and when you might be doubting yourself or doubting your capabilities or what the team is capable of, like, the next person on the team is right there to pick you up. And that's absolutely what happened every single day of this past season. And it definitely, like I said before, the adversity only really just made us stronger as a unit and pulled us closer together.
Because I know, as an athlete, you hate losing, obviously.
Yes.
Um, but it is interesting to note, the journey of some people. It's why I like doing the interviews so much, because you see, obviously, again, not fun to put anybody through adversity or have him lose anything. But you know that those groups that'll go through that kind of stuff together tend to get out of it stronger if they stay together and work with each other. So it was interesting to know, I would be at some of the games there and, tough, give up a goal or something, just a tough play. And it's like, kind of have to deal with it. Um, but then, like, I think it was the ASU game, give up a goal, then come right back and equalize and, play a tough team and hold them out. Obviously, I'm sure you'd like to pick up the win there, but to through a season like that, to hold on to that, it is interesting to note because, you go to those games and you say, hey, man, they're still in it. They're hanging around. It's just about making that push. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that is something that, will be looked at and remembered as we head into next year, which sadly is a little far off as we're here in January. But talk about that. What are your thoughts on your performance, from this past season? I know you can be your own best critic. And as a goalkeeper, though, I know it might be a difficult situation because as somebody who covers our hockey team here, there's a lot of issues just defensively where a lot of it gets pinned on the goaltender. And, I don't know if that's something that you ever catch flack for as, the goaltender. It's something you notice in both soccer and hockey. It's like, hey, that's the person that's supposed to be making the saves. Do you think about anything about that, or is it more of, hey, this is my job, I have to do it, I can't really think about the people in front of me or what they're doing? Because essentially I'm saying, do you kind of get what I'm saying here with, having that maybe responsibility as a goaltender? Because I know that's something you might have to deal with. And what might your thoughts be on your performance as a whole last year?
Yeah. I mean, to your point about, kind of taking some flack about it, definitely. It comes with the territory. It is part of the job, unfortunately. It's part of the reason that a lot of people don't want to do the job. Um, I think that I'm a perfectionist and I'm always going to be absurdly critical of myself. And, there were plenty of games where, obviously the ball has to get through 10 other people to even get to me, but I felt like, I could have done a little bit more, even if it was a banger of a shot. Like maybe if I had been a half step over or stretched my arm out an inch more, like maybe dislocated my shoulder and thrown my arm at it, so like just crazy stuff. But, I think that, again, I learned a lot about myself as a player and as a person. And I think that my biggest growth from the season is in the mental game. And, I saw a lot more action than I did in the spring. Um, I saw in the spring, I had to make 31 saves in total in the entire season. And this year I made 77, I believe. So I was a lot more active, and which is fun. From a team standpoint, maybe not what you want, but I think that it just gave me so many more opportunities in hindsight, kind of taking the competitive part of me out of it where I'm pissed off about letting in goals and stuff. Like, it gave me so many more opportunities to really look at situations that I was getting put in really critically, and like watch on film and see, okay, these are some problem areas, and these are things that now I can go into off season and really address. But yeah, so as much as, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to be satisfied with the performance that I have in the season. Like in a season as a whole, unless I go, 27 games or however many it takes to get to the national championship without ever giving up a goal. That would be a time at which I think I would be satisfied with myself. But I definitely am proud of the way, and I'm not one to do this, and this is actually one of my New Year's resolutions. I'm trying to note when I am proud of myself, and that it's okay to be proud of yourself and say that you're proud of yourself for things. So I am very proud of the way that I grew in resilience, because there were definitely times, you brought up the Arizona State game, where first half performance, I did not do very well. And the 2 goals that we allowed in the first half were partially because of actions that I made or didn't make, actually. And, I got some heat for it, definitely, in the locker room, as I should have. And my coach really turned to me and said, like, now it's time for you to step up and keep your team in this game. And that's exactly what I did. I came up with a couple of really big saves in the second half of that game. And, I think that there were times throughout the season, once again, where it was like things weren't going our way, and it would have been easy for me to throw in the towel. And I managed to keep us in some games. So in that respect, I am definitely proud of the way that I performed. But, I think that, like I said, I've got a lot of film, a lot of things that I know now that I didn't know going into season about myself, a lot of things to work on. And I feel very well equipped to go into this off season and really make the most of it and come back a more well-rounded and complete goalkeeper, and to be prepared to take my team to that next level that we haven't been to yet.
Yeah, there were a few games where I tell you I'm come and see after, like, played like shit. I'm like, dude, because I know obviously you're gonna be your own biggest critic. It seems like every
Yes.
athlete is. But I'm sure that is tough, and it is important though that you look, as you mentioned, at the mental side of it, because obviously, in all these sports that we watch, pay attention to, play, there's obviously the physical side of it, skill, whatever, but mental is so much of it. Whether that's being a veteran, knowing how things go, being able to weather the storm. And again, I know you don't like to hear it, I'm sure, or go through those losses, but I'm sure it'll only just, add to the journey and add to the experience that you have. Because, I mean, if you look at real successful teams, I think you see a lot of that. Obviously, no team goes undefeated every single season, right? So it's just about taking what you learned from that and then going forward. And I'm sure you know that, obviously. I think we talked about body armor last time we spoke. Uh, this is just an interesting concept for me. Not body armor, but what I'm about to speak with you about. Because I mean, obviously, since it's become reality, it's been a big deal with the NIL changing college sports and this idea of monopolies. Uh, there's an interesting quote that came out that I kind of want to talk about. Uh, Alabama head coach Nick Saban said that there should be strict guidelines in place for this, as he doesn't want there to be monopolies on college football. And it's just interesting because of whatever monopoly Alabama has on college football. But I mean, do you think there's going to be, I mean, we've already been what, like a year or so into it. Um, I mean, do you think there will be any sort of major changes with things regarding the NIL? I mean, at least from what I've seen, it's not like anybody has the strict monopoly where all these kids are going to one school because of the opportunities like that. I mean, it seems like I don't know. As an athlete, somebody who's in that space, I want to hear your thoughts on the NIL and if it'll actually, change anything for the worst. Because at least from what I've seen, that was just that idea of it making things terrible. It's just kind of been overblown.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that whole concept, I mean, when you're talking about Alabama football players, it's a little bit different, I think, because of the level of celebrity that naturally sort of comes with that, and the level of media attention that they get and the followers on social media and all of that. Um, I think that that becomes a little bit more of an issue for a program like that because of that level of celebrity, and then as a result the amount of money and the kinds of deals that those athletes are being offered. um I think that the 98% of other college athletes that are partaking in NIL deals are doing so on a much smaller scale that is really just not going to be massively impactful on recruiting or anything like that. Um, as far as, 'cause I did also see that quote and I thought it was very interesting. Um, you know, I think honestly, the whole idea behind the NIL thing was to give, obviously, to give athletes more opportunity to monetize their brand and their like profit off of all the hard work that they're doing essentially on and off the field. And, um, I think that the NIL landscape, as far as, talking about like a program, athletes wanting to go to a particular school or play for a particular program because of the NIL opportunities that it affords, um, frankly, it just puts pressure on the universities. Um, and I don't say that in a bad way necessarily, but to create those kinds of opportunities for their athletes, which I think is an important thing that the university should be doing, um, because it is a difficult landscape to navigate. And like at UW, we're super lucky. We have really great resources and an awesome alumni network that's actually working to create NIL opportunities for us. Um, but I know that not every school has that. And I think that, sort of what he's talking about, sort of what Nick Saban is bringing up as far as the monopoly and whatever else, like it's going to put pressure on, as far as the 98% goes again. I don't want to speak to the UConn basketball or Duke basketball or Alabama footballs of the world, but as far as the rest of it, I think it puts a healthy pressure, and it's a healthy impetus for athletic departments to foster opportunities for student athletes to find NIL deals. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, and obviously, everybody on Twitter, whatever, can make their thoughts about it. But as
Totally.
somebody who's actually, in that space, why I want to say, hey, what are your thoughts on it? How do you view it? Because yeah, I mean, like you said, you brought up three key examples: Duke basketball, UConn basketball, Alabama football. Those have got their own things. Like that level of celebrity just comes when you become a part of that program. So it is interesting to note that. But at least, again, as far as I've seen, it hasn't really been this huge deal. It's just
Right.
like, yeah, I've seen deals here and there. Where it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. They're doing that. They're with that company, and I'm sure it helps out. So
It does.
interesting to see that point of view from it. To get back to the UW side of it more, I know that when we spoke first, talked about your head coach, Coach Van Dyke. So after another season under Coach Van Dyke, do you have any new thoughts on her or how your relationship with your coach might have grown since then?
I mean, I think we've definitely just continued to grow closer. Stepping into a team captain role this past season, I definitely became, along with my other captains, like we are the intermediaries between the rest of the team and the coaches. Um, and you know, she is an amazing leader, and everything that I said about her in my past interviews still holds true. And yeah, I would still consider us very close. And she, obviously she's ultra competitive as well, which is one of the reasons that she and I get along very well. Um, and so obviously none of us were happy, including her, with the way that season went. But she once again has never stopped believing in the team, investing in us, uh, putting us first. And she's really, I think that all of that is really evidenced by the work that she's done in recruiting over the past probably while, but like especially over the past 6 months. Um, we've got a lot of new players that have already arrived. We've got a few transfers that came in and started training with us this winter. We've got some a massive freshman class coming in and a few more transfers in the fall. And you know, I think that it just really shows that she's putting a lot of faith in the group that's coming back this year. Um, because as it goes when there's a shitty season, for lack of a better word, or a season that doesn't go the way that you want it to go and things aren't all sunshine and rainbows, there's going to be turnover. There's going to be people that aren't happy on the team, that even that just decide soccer's not for them anymore because it gets tough. And I don't blame them. Like, if you don't really love soccer, like a season that doesn't go your way of college soccer is not going to be a fun time. And so naturally there's going to be a lot of turnover. And the recruiting that she's done has really shown that she has a lot of faith in and respect for the group that is returning, because those of us that are still here and that are coming back, again, all of us grandmas that are still somehow eligible to compete in college sports, that are choosing to come back, or people that are coming back from their third ACL or massive other surgeries and injuries. Like, we're all here, or even just people that stuck it out all through last year. We're all here because we love this program and we want to be here and we want to take this program to the next level. And she is bought into it and really has faith in us to be able to accomplish all the things that we want to accomplish. And she's using recruiting to give us the tools to make that happen. And I think that that's something that it really speaks volumes, about how much she cares about the team, but also how much she cares about us individually as players.
Yeah, and you talk about that recruiting class, and I do want to address that in a little bit,
Yeah.
because that should be an interesting thing to look at. But obviously, there's another season to go, right? Um, but since transferring to UW, I mean, do you have any reflection on your time here? Coming up to Washington, where, as just like today, our weather is lovely. Um, I mean, are you able to just reflect on your time at UW, prior to the season? Because obviously, again, we're in January, right? And there's still a good amount of
Still some
time
time to go.
for things to happen. But how do you look at it, your time so far? How do you sort of look back at Liv here as a Husky?
I mean, just with so much gratitude and so much love. And like, I mean, where I was at before in my career, before I got here, and in my career and as a person, I was just very deeply unhappy. And like, there were a lot of ways in which I thought that, soccer might be done for me. I might not be able to keep going. And I came to UW and got an invaluable opportunity to start fresh. And I could never, ever, ever thank the people who brought me in, the coaches, the university, my teammates enough for that, because, you know, since coming in, like, just the opportunity in itself is amazing. And then all of the things that they've done for me as people, the way that they've inspired me, the way that they've lifted me up when I've had hard times, the way that they've been there and helped me get to some of the most incredible moments of my life, and some of my favorite, um, you know, favorite memories that I'll cherish for forever, has just been so incredible. The whole experience has been amazing. And to speak to the Seattle weather, I absolutely am about it. I've always loved the rain. It's not an issue for me. I went on a run in it this morning. Not a big deal.
Oh,
Ain't
is
no
that
thing.
why the hair was wet?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, that's why hair is still a little bit wet.
running
Um,
in the rain. Jesus. All right,
yeah.
buddy.
Hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
Fair enough.
I told you we're getting after it this off season. We're going for it. Um, but yeah, I mean, no, not it's not an exaggeration when I say that I have had some of the best days and moments of my life thus far since becoming a Husky. And I, again, am just so grateful, and it makes me so happy that I ended up here. And it was a convoluted, kind of messed up road to make it happen and get here, but I'm so thankful that everything happened exactly the way it did, because I don't know if I would have ended up here otherwise.
So I know, to take a step from that, I know you called the yourself and some of the other players who perhaps graduate student players, you called it, I think it was grandmas was the word.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so with that being said, obviously this is a season where you want to have success and obviously
Yes.
get away from any sort of the majority of what took place last season, right? But with
Yes.
that also being said, we talk about the recruiting class, and that's going to be the next question. But have you thought about the idea of, or have you already been doing this? Mentoring the goalkeepers below you. Perhaps preparing them for when your time at UW is done, because it's not like the pros where you could sign on a 7-year contract and you're here, whatever.
Forever. Yeah.
Um, you know, it's college, things change. You got to move on eventually. And that for you is after this season. So, is that something you've already worked on, speaking with the goalkeepers below you? I know there's, I think, at least one in the upcoming class here.
Mhm.
I mean, is that something that you think about, because obviously you've got this, again, I'm not trying to call you old here, buddy. But you've got some knowledge that I'm sure people would consider valuable, right? Um,
Definitely.
so is that something you've already been doing, or is it something you think about, as you look at, hey, there is an expiration date on my time here, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I definitely do make an effort. I would like to think that the younger goalkeepers feel like I do. I
I
hope they
guess
do,
it's up
because
to
I
them.
definitely try. I mean, they affectionately call me mom because they are significantly younger than me. Um,
Significant.
yeah, they're my little babies. This past season it was 2 sophomores and a freshman, and then me, a redshirt senior, and then this year it's going to be a junior, or a redshirt sophomore, a redshirt freshman, and a true freshman, and then me, a COVID redshirt senior. So yeah, I am 4 years older, I think, than the next oldest goalkeeper in the group. Um, so yes, I do have a little more life and soccer experience under my belt. than than they do. But I definitely, that's something that I think about very frequently. And you know, I mean, selfishly, it's very easy to be like, well, I want to be the best. I'm gonna just stay in my own lane and I'm not gonna help people and whatever. But the reality is that, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be here forever. And like, thank God, like, I love it here. You heard me say that, but like, I've been playing college soccer for too long already. Like, it's gonna be time for me to move on here in not that long. And I want nothing but the best things for the program going forward. And I want to be a crazy alumni cheering from the tent when they're winning. And I think that a huge part of that is imparting whatever knowledge I can onto the younger goalkeepers. And I would consider us a very tight knit group. We're all very close and we work really hard for each other and together and push each other in training. And I try to give them feedback when I can, and they give me feedback when they can. And I appreciate that so much. I mean, yeah. So I think that that's definitely something that I'm conscious of, um, for sure. And I mean, even just from the competitive aspect too, when you look at it that way, like, I want all of them to be their best, because if they're at their best, then they're pushing me to be at my best. Um, so that's kind of, yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I stand on it. But yeah, so I'm assuming when the true freshman comes in, I will transition from mom to grandma, or maybe great grandma, because there's three of them that are younger than me now. But yeah, but I definitely feel very strongly. And I mean, knock on wood, I haven't had any major serious injuries. Well, I broke my nose a couple of times, but I went back out and played. Um, but anything that's caused me to get taken off the field in a game, again, knock on wood, but I, again, want the best for the team and I want the team to be successful above all else. And so it's only right that I try my best to make sure that the other goalkeepers are prepared if anything were to happen, um, so that the team can succeed and the team can carry on without me. So
Well, that is something, you have to look at, I'm sure, as not only in college, but also perhaps in the pros as well. The legacy that you leave, the impact that you have on, those in your position group, because I'm sure there's
definitely,
a lot that's maybe you might learn from the younger ones. It feels weird hearing
totally.
you, grandma, whatever,
They
dude.
keep me hip. They keep me young.
Okay. All right. You talk about the freshmen. I finally want to ask you about, your thoughts on the incoming class of, 22. You features a number 13 recruit in the country by Top Drawer Soccer. Can you just share your thoughts on, that class? I know that's been something you've touched on here and there, talking about Coach Van Dyke and, obviously welcoming in, I guess, another goalkeeper into the family, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting to get new kids into the fold. I mean, and I say kids affectionately, but again, they're going to be 5 to 6 years younger than me some of the time. So I think I get to call them kids. No, it's always really fun to bring new people into the team. You know, like, some people get weird about it, but I just see it as such an opportunity. Like, I mean, all of the teammates that I know and love, and like some of the kids that I'm closest with on the team were new girls at one point too. So it's like, it's just another opportunity to find new amazing people to bring into the fold and to contribute to the team and our common goals. And you know um so I think I'm always excited about that. And um I think that it's really promising for the future of the program, which is something that's very important to me and very important to some of the other older players. And something we've talked about a lot is, leaving the program in a better place than we found it, and continuing that ascent towards the ultimate goal of, being a national powerhouse consistently, and winning national titles, winning Pac-12 titles. Um, Ultimately, it's at this point going to be about the future for the program, and like one that we're not necessarily involved in. Um, so I think it's really exciting, that we have such a big young class coming in. Um, and honestly, too, freshmen are energetic. Freshmen are a lot of, they can be a lot of fun, especially, on the bench. They get riled up. They're just happy to be there. They're just so stoked that they're playing college soccer. And I mean, I can say that because I was one. I was so stoked. I was so energetic on the bench. It was, you know, it's a fun time. And I think that dose of energy is going to be really helpful and really positive for the core group of old ladies that are coming back. And yeah, I think that it's going to be a shot of energy into the team. And again, competition is super healthy and super good in the training environment, because all these kids, as much as they're young, they're going to be hungry and they're going to want in, and it's going to be a battle for every position on the field, and that's just ultimately going to make every individual better and the team better. And yeah, so I'm just real excited about it. I think it's going to be great.
You touch on a few key things there. I think, you talk about some of the younger players coming in and, pushing in practice and just I think depth, you look at any championship team, depth is a huge
Absolutely.
factor. And so whether it's, the just pushing each other in practice or, keeping you on your toes. So I think, yeah, that's
Definitely.
important. But also, you talk about the future of the program. I think that goes back to, that legacy that you leave. You have a chance here, obviously, again, looking for great success next season. But if you want to instill this idea of a powerhouse and continue to do that and just have it be a program that's recognized as that, you have a chance to be a part of that, right? To sort of lay the foundation as a woman, with this team and just instill that so it just gets passed down, right? Whether it's work ethic or just holding the team to that standard, that's something you can be a part of, and it's, obviously not part of it in the player aspect of it, but I'm sure you can have an influence on that with as an alumni or, helping pass on lessons to this group of newcomers, or even some of the players who aren't necessarily newcomers and still have some time on this team, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so just a few quick things as someone I know who has ties to the league. I want your thoughts on the NWSL expanding and what it might mean for not only the future of professional women's soccer as professional women's soccer here in the U.S., as well as professional women's sports as a whole, because I feel like expansion, and whether you look at it as WNBA or NWSL is good, right? You get more women in the league, more of a chance for revenue growth, perhaps new cities in LA and San Diego in the NWSL. But your thoughts on the expansion and what it might mean for women's soccer and women's sports?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the expansion is a very promising, good sign, and kind of a bright spot in a season that was a little bit tough and a little bit, marked by some not great things. That the expansion is promising, especially when you're looking at teams like Angel City that are so heavily focused on being women driven and women led and women empowering. And um, yeah, I mean, again, expansion is great because you're getting more opportunities for players to ascend to that next level. Um, and I think you're expanding the fan base, you're expanding opportunities for people to go out and watch games and inspire that next generation of kids. And I think that, yeah, all around, it's really positive, and I'm really excited. And you know, being a California kid, it's cool that there's a couple of California teams out there now that, you know, in a year from now, maybe I could end up at one of those. And um, yeah, I think it's really really exciting.
I did try to stick loyal to my team up here, but wherever you go, dude, you're gonna have to think about it. I just don't like
Thanks, buddy.
the I don't know if I've griped to you about that. The old KC, it was before they were the current this past year where they had the like cherry red tops and the seafoam green. I don't get it. It
No, that was rough.
See, thank you.
That was rough.
Thank you. I
No,
talked
it
to
wasn't a
JC
good look.
Johnson on the team and she was like, "Oh, I think they're no."
I didn't like
I
it.
no. So anyway, uh you had a teammate get drafted by the Rain
Heck
up
yeah.
here, and it was really interesting because I remember at that WSU game, uh, I noticed as somebody who was at every single home game for the Rain this past season, somebody has a really distinct Nike puffer jacket every single game, unless it was warm. and had it at the game and was watching the game. And so when the Reign had their press conference announcing that they were coming back to Seattle to come back to Lumen, I spoke with her. I said, "Hey, so you were at that UW game. Are you looking at anybody in particular?" And I had a few people in mind, and I didn't want to try and get any insider trading information, but obviously, just a few days later, seeing Olivia get drafted. Do you have any thoughts on that, the situation for her, and just any thoughts on just her as a teammate, her as a player, what she might be able to accomplish here, joining, obviously the league, but a really talented group of midfielders, let alone the team itself?
Absolutely. I mean, Olo is one of the hardest working players I've ever encountered in my life. She's a ball magnet. Like, she won every single 50-50. I'm not, and that's not an exaggeration. Like, I know people say, oh, she did everything or da 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 da. I don't recall a single 50-50 ball in the air that Olo did not win this entire season. She's just incredible. Her positioning is insane. She works like crazy. She's running up and down the field constantly. She's incredible. And just on top of that, an incredible human being. And I actually didn't know that she was declaring for the draft. So I was at home watching it, and I was doing my thing, whatever. I had just gotten in the car. I'd done like a Peloton workout at my grandparents' house. I was getting back to the car, and I had it on my phone, and I was sitting there in the driveway, and all of a sudden they said, and with the 33rd pick, the Reign select Olivia Vanderjagt. And I was like, what? Like, freaked out and texted her immediately. And I was like, dude, congratulations. But like, what the hell? I had no idea. And, she responded, she's like, oh, thanks so much. Like, I didn't think I was going to get picked. Like, I declared really last minute. And I was like, well, okay. Like, congratulations.
Bye, I guess,
But
right? Like, well, not necessarily. I mean, she'll be in the area, right?
totally. And I mean,
So
she's a local kid, which I think is probably a big draw for them too. And, they honestly could not have picked a better player or person. And like, I tweeted about it after it happened, and I said something along the lines of, like, best pick of the draft. Like, you can quote me on that, because she was the most underrated player in the Pac-12, 100%. I think she is she deserves so much more credit than she ever got. And I think, that's kind of one of the things about her position, is she was kind of a silent workhorse, where she wasn't flashy. She wasn't scoring a ton of goals, anything like that, but she just constantly, she was the heartbeat of our team, and just an absolute baller. And they nailed that one. They knocked it out of the park with that pick. So the Reign are not going to be disappointed by having drafted Olivia Vanderjagt. I can definitely say that.
yeah, and I mean, again, to go back to it, to have players on that team to just work from. I mean, obviously, if I look in the midfield, league MVP last year, just Fishlock. I mean, that's wealth of knowledge. We talk about wealth of knowledge right there. So that was certainly interesting, because there was somebody else that I thought was going to be in this draft that was not. So obviously, it's interesting to hear that now that you had no idea, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
is this something that is kind of like, I'm not sure if I want to do that? Like, if you're not sure who I'm talking about, I thought that Summer Yates was going to be in this draft. Is that something that, I don't know if you can speak on her behalf? Is it something, hey, I don't know if I want to do that, I want to come back?
Yeah. I mean, just in the talks that I've had with Summer, I love that woman. She's a woman of few words, an absolute star, like an incredible player. But she is insanely bought into this program, more so than almost anybody on the team. And that's saying something. And she absolutely could have gotten drafted, absolutely could have gone pro, no question. She was an All-American in the spring. Like, she's incredible and has every opportunity to go pro whenever she wants to. But she did not want to leave UW on the note that we finished on in the fall. And I think that just speaks volumes to who she is, and the kind of competitor that she is, and the kind of person that she is, and her character, because she does things the right way 100% of the time. and she did not want to leave the program like that. And she, like, I think she too, and we all kind of feel the same way, where it's like, we know who's coming back, we know what we have in our arsenal, we know what we're capable of, and we have an opportunity this coming year to really do something special, and she absolutely wanted to be a part of that. So I don't know the inner workings of what her decision making process was, but from what I've gathered, that's the gist. And I mean, as if I didn't already have the utmost respect for her, that just really pushed it over the edge. I was like, wow, dude, like, you're amazing. But yeah, so that's kind of the summer situation as I understand it. And yeah, so you will see Summer Yates back in a UW uniform in fall of 2022. So look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, as somebody who's got incredible talent. To hear that, I mean, it just doubles down. I mean, me, I love to go out all to the UW stuff, and I've been a UW guy since as far as I can remember, despite my parents not going, having a heavy interest in it. So to hear that, hey man, even more of a fan for that. And that'll be even more exciting to hear that, and like you talk about, like we go back to it with talking about wanting to make this program a powerhouse. It's going to take, we've already said shit, so I'm just going to do it again.
Okay.
It's going to take shit like that, again, to leave that legacy, to instill that in these women, and to have them instill it in future generations and keep it going. So I think that's a good start. Obviously, starts are one thing in sports, things can change, but I have faith in that. I think that's a good place to begin.
Great.
With that being said, do you have any lasting thoughts, whether it be on the season, on what you're looking forward to, or maybe even if you cared at all that the Reign are coming back to Seattle? I mean, anything that you'd want to leave on?
On the note of the Reign, I'm so excited that they're coming back to Seattle. I think it's a great move. I think it's a great move for the league. I think it's a great move for the team. There's such a huge soccer fan base here already that I think it just makes so much sense, and they deserve to be playing in that beautiful stadium. And yeah, and that means I can go watch Olo a lot easier. So I'm excited about it. Olo and yeah, a couple other friends too. But yeah, I am very excited about that. And as far as parting words or lasting thoughts, it's off season. It's time to grind. It's time to get after it and use this fall as motivation, when things get tough, when it's rainy and dark out and it's early and you got to go to fitness and it's going to suck, but you got to get through it. And I think that we're going to come back stronger than ever. And we're all very committed at this point in time to, like we're talking about, leaving the program in a better place than we found it, and establishing a precedent and a legacy that is one of excellence and a standard that is going to carry into the future generations of the program. We're all very bought into that principle and that idea. And I think that everybody better watch out, because UW's coming.
I'm a betting man. I already believe in my Huskies, and my friend live here, but I mean, that didn't change any for the worse here. So it'll be exciting to look at that. And also, obviously, for one, if you've got time, and two, after next season, depending on what happens with however you decide to venture into soccer or whatever route you decide after this season, would love to follow up again. So with that being said, Liv Sekany, I know that Coach Van Dyke listened to the last one. I hope that maybe we don't get any flack for using bad words. But
I think she's probably heard them before.
Used them maybe as a coach?
No, she's good about that. But well, yeah, she's mostly good about that.
With that being said,
she'll give me shit for saying that. But
well.
Oh well.
This has been 2021 season review, Liv Sekany. So until I guess we get soccer season. I expect you to work in the dark because we won't see any of it, and we'll see
Yep.
how it goes on the field.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.